Hi, Team Persevere. Our nonfiction reading lesson today is all about opinions. What does that word mean, opinion? What does it mean to have an opinion on something? Pause the video to discuss. Well, just like individuals, we all have opinions on different topics. So do authors. And sometimes an author's opinion is explicit. It comes out, the text comes out and exactly says what the author is thinking and feeling. Like this example. This was a Newsella article that some of the students in my small reading group were reading last week. And in the title of this article, it says zoos should be banned. It gives the author's opinion right in the title. We know that this individual does not think zoos are good, and they went on to give specific reasons to prove their opinion. Other times, other times, someone's opinion there we go. Technical difficulties. Sometimes an author's opinion might be implicit or hidden. And in this example of a book that we have used throughout our unit, When Lunch Fights Back, in part of the title, it says wickedly clever animal defenses. Well, we know that this book is all about animal defenses, how animals defend themselves against predators. We have learned about a lot of interesting animals as we've used pages of this book. When I just read animal defenses, I know what this is. There's no opinion to that. I know that this is about ways animals defend themselves. But then when I dig in deeper and I think of that first part, wickedly clever animal defenses, what does this tell you about the author's perspective about animal defenses? So specifically thinking of those words, wickedly clever. Pause the video to discuss. Today, I want to teach you that readers don't just think about the information in a text, they also figure out the perspective of the author of that text and how he or she might be swaying you to think a certain way about the topic. And like we just had some examples, sometimes it will be really easy to see the author's opinion. And other times it might be much harder and hidden. So we have to be on the lookout, especially for those hidden times. We're going to try this skill together. Using this book, When Lunch Fights Back, Wickedly Clever Animal Defenses, the author is, it just covered it up. There it is, Rebecca L. Johnson. She is the author of this text. And what I'm wondering today is, what is the author's perspective on scientists? Because we already know her perspective on animal defenses. She thinks they are awesome, and she really is intrigued by animal defenses and especially interesting ways that animals defend themselves that we might not always talk about. But let's go a step further and think of specifically scientists. What is her perspective on scientists? And this scientist in the picture right here, her name is Sheila Patek, and she's a scientist at Duke University. And we're going to read a passage that talks about her as a scientist and see if you can pick up some information about the perspective of the author has on scientists in general. So this passage is going to be talking about an animal that's a peacock mantis shrimp. And in the picture here that we can see of it, A peacock mantis shrimp cracks a snail's shell with a blow from one of its hammers. Wow. So, again, thinking of this question as we are reading. A peacock mantis shrimp's punch isn't just fast, it's so powerful it can crack the rock hard shells of snails and other animals the mantis shrimp eats. Working at Duke University, Paddock designed experiments to measure the power of that punch. She tricked a mantis shrimp living in an aquarium into punching an instrument that measures the force of a blow. The technical term is impact force. Paddock recorded mantis shrimp punches again and again. She could hardly believe the results. The mantis shrimp typically struck the instrument with well over 200 pounds of force. The hammer impact is massive, she says. These animals are producing thousands of times their body weight in peak impact force. As far as I know, this still holds the record as the highest force generation of any organism that has been measured on the planet. Quite interesting. So now to you. What is the author's perspective on scientists? The author did not come out and say her opinion, but we can make inferences from what the author said. So at this time, we're going to pause, and I would like you to come up with your opinion and remember to be specific. Give details from the text that support what your answer to this question. Pause the video. When I was trying to answer this question, I underlined a few important areas of the text that I think gave me some information where the author is specifically talking about the scientists. So the author says that the scientists designed experiments. She uses the word that the scientists tricked a mantis shrimp. So that's kind of telling me that the author is believing that this scientist is really smart to be able to do that. If you're tricking an animal, that usually that would be something that's hard to do. Later on, it says the scientist could hardly believe the results. So that shows that she's worked really hard on something and is really surprised by her findings, and she's interacting with her findings. So after rereading this passage a few times, I came up with a sentence to support this, saying, scientists do important and exciting work, and they're often successful. This would support that question, or it would answer the question about what the author's perspective is on scientists. So I really think that those examples that I underlined on the previous page, these examples show that scientists do important and exciting work. They're often successful. Think about using these different strategies when you're reading your own nonfiction text. Be thinking, what is the author's opinion on this? And use that to help you in research. If you're reading a passage and the author is giving some very big opinions, it's important to take that into account in your own research. So, some good food for thought to keep in mind as you continue your work researching. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work.